pineapple.
I registered to vote when I was 18 years old. I registered as a Democrat. I've been voting Democrat for 31 years. I am now 49. I have been voting Democrat for as long as Charlie Kirk was alive. Now, first and foremost, I want to say to Mr. Kirk's family and to his children, I am so, so sorry. And I got to say personally, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm out. I'm done. I'm not ever going to be the type of person that comes on and publicly celebrates, certainly, because I think it takes an incredibly sick individual to do something like that. What the hell? But to even just sit back and not say anything, I think that's complicit. The silence would speak volumes. I would be part of the problem. I have been disillusioned with the Democratic Party for a very, very long time. And when I actually sat down and listened, which I have been for a couple of years now, to the debates from people like Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, and others, it's been making a lot of sense. I am autistic. I can't speak for every autistic person, but I'm a highly logical person. I have feelings, I have empathy, but I decision make and my thought process operates much more on logic than it does emotions and feelings when I'm making decisions and I'm thinking about my position on things.
Me too.
And I've noticed that
many such cases. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Good morning, pineapples. How's everybody doing today? Nice to see you all. Too easy, swift justice. Is this your first time on the Wake Up America show? Welcome. I think I see a couple of new names over there. D Shep 311, nice as well. Geraldo 17QA, where are all these people coming from? Welcome to the Wake Up America show, guys. The land of pineapples. They're not upside down pineapples. By now, all our pineapples are right set up. You're in the right place if you love freedom and you love America. The coffee's hot. News is hotter. Hypocrisy is boiling over. Yesterday, Vice President JD Vance sat down behind Charlie Kirk's microphone. And what did he say? No unity. No unity with people who cheer when their political opponents are murdered. Vance said that this administration will dismantle the institutions that promote violence and terrorism. Good. That's what we should do. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, thousands of anonymous hyenas chimed in celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The media clapped. They laughed. They made jokes about his wife and his kids. These people want unity. Sorry, JD Vance gave them their answer. No unity. Good. But here's where it gets serious, because the White House with Stephen Miller kind of whispered in the background, hey, he's now talking about unleashing the Department of Justice and Homeland Security to root out what they call domestic terror networks. Okay, if that sounds familiar, say Richard Nixon tried this before with his enemies list, only this time the tool isn't a tape recorder in the Oval Office, it's AI. So artificial intelligence scanning the internet for, I don't know, it might be easy to find. Maybe you don't even need AI. You just need to watch the Wake Up America show, because you can just, if you listen to certain live streamers, you might hear things like this.
I'm ready for the great cleansing, dude.
Ready for the great cleansing?
The cleansing.
What cleansing?
When we genocide conservatives in this country.
Are you going to be out in the streets with your Glock?
Maybe. I gotta go back to Nebraska and grab it.
Okay. Destiny. What is your destiny? That seems pretty straightforward. That sounds like a terroristic threat. And it's not hate speech, although it might be hateful speech. The Department of Justice it doesn't have the best track record in understanding justice, as we saw from the Epstein files. And we have the Attorney General Pam Bondi saying very cringe things like this.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech.
Oh, God.
And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the...
No. This is not. You don't need... It's not hate speech. It's not about hate speech. It's about terror. It's about violent threats like this. I'm ready for the great cleansing. What are you going to do?
What cleansing?
When we genocide conservatives in this country.
That's not hate speech. That is a terroristic threat. That's what it is. That is already a crime. Just prosecute them for the crimes. No need to invent excuses or copy the left's language. Have to go back to Daddy's house in Nebraska to grab his Glock. Yes, exactly. Pam's saying it so they aren't doing shit, says Larry Legend. What's up with all these awesome new people in the chat I've never seen before? How did you guys find us? Welcome to the show. I love new friends. And we're going to have a great show today for you. We've got a lot of great guests. So we're going to talk about the JD Vance hosting of Charlie Kirk's show yesterday. And then we're going to take you deep into the mind of the shooter himself, Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old who had scholarships and opportunity, instead chose obsession, memes, and murder. He confessed online. He etched his slogan into his bullets. He lived in a digital cave of furry memes and left-wing politics until his own father had to turn him in. We're going to dig into that later. And then at 8 o'clock this morning, Camellia Peterson joins us to talk about this very crisis, America's Lost Boys, why so many young men are retreating into gaming, porn, drugs, and meme culture instead of growing into, good husbands, fathers, and builders. Camellia has the cultural diagnosis. We're going to hear from her this morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. At 8:30, we're going to hear from science fiction author Devon Eriksen, who's going to take the mic. And we're going to talk to him about the Washington Post columnist Karen Attiah, who was fired after downplaying the mourning of Charlie Kirk. She says it was false mourning. The Post called it gross misconduct, how she reported on his quote that he had stated about black women. Devon's going to help us to see the danger to free speech in this when institutions police, not what you say, but how much you cry, and whether or not Washington Post firing this woman was the proper move. A lot of people on the right, including some libertarians, are saying, oh, this is cancel culture. We shouldn't do what the left says. I disagree with them. I think that in the case of the Washington Post reporter, getting fired was absolutely the right move. In the case of someone like Destiny, for example, I think that he absolutely should be investigated for violent terroristic threats. Stan, you screwed up the thing here.
Active on social media since Charlie Kirk's death. When Erica Kirk posted Charlie's coffin, you responded, she tagged him, brackets, crying face emojis. In response to Alina Haber's tweet ordering people to fly their flags a half-mast in memory of Charlie, you posted on X buying flags and poles just to fly them fully erect. And you then posted yesterday, ending every conservative debate call out I'd do in 2026 with "Don't dodge, bro." That's not what Charlie would have wanted. Do you think that your response to the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk has been appropriate?
Yes. I think that the only way this country moves forward into a better world is when conservatives can finally realize that they need to turn the temperature down on their side. We are 10 years into whatever this Trump madness is, and there is not a single mainstream conservative that will call for a lowering of the temperature on their side. I think that liberals need to wake up and finally realize that if they're not willing to do it, it will never come down. If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Donald Trump shouldn't have been president for the second term. Every time he's in office, this happens. happens. People joked about when Biden came in, it was so boring, nothing was going on. 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in American history have happened under Donald Trump. All of the recent political violence that's happened in this country over the past 20 years, the majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it, everybody gets mad because they keep asking Grok about it, has been conservative.
Who shot Charlie Kirk?
A guy from Utah who was raised in a Christian family, who was a 22-year-old white
described,
dude. He wasn't trans. He didn't have a trans girlfriend. He didn't have any trans influences. He didn't have any trans bullets. Yeah, I'm sorry. You guys were wrong on all of that.
To be clear, the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, has made it clear that their investigation has now established that he had been radicalized by a leftist ideology, which drove him to do this. That's just
I'm sorry. Excuse me. When?
Yesterday, he said that.
Is he even paying attention to what's going on? Don't forget to click the like button and follow. Today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show. It's nice to see so many new names and faces down there in the chat. So if today is your first time and you're not already followed, make sure you click the follow button before you leave today. You'll get a notification on your app whenever the show is live. Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show schedule. He didn't have a trans girlfriend, correct. He had a trans boyfriend. He had a boyfriend? What? Dad bod? What's he saying? All right, and yes, for those brave souls who fuel this show, so everybody stretch, who fuel the show with their Rumble rants and purchases at the shop this morning, the Breakfast Theater bonus today is locked at $100. Today's sketch is a fired airline pilot, one of the very real leftists who gloated about Charlie's death online, lost their job. They will come on the program today to explain why they are the real victim. Captain Skylar Woke will join us live on the Wake Up America show today if we hit the bonus content goal. Wait until you hear Captain Skylar Woke's rant about the intrusive thoughts that he has had at 35,000 feet. Satire with turbulence. We will have one of the fired pilots on the Wake Up America show today if we hit the $100 unlock. Since we have so many new names and faces, let me just briefly explain it. We have bonus content on this show, and if we raise $75, then we unlock a 5-minute mini documentary. We've got a really good one today about Desi Arnaz. And then if we raise $100, just $25 more, then that will unlock our breakfast theater for the morning, where we will feature one of the airline pilots who was recently fired over statements that he had made about Charlie Kirk. Speaking of people trying to defame Charlie Kirk, Don Lemon has been out on the streets these days trying to get people to defame Charlie Kirk. This was an interesting conversation.
What do you think would happen to Charlie Kirk?
It's just messed up, totally messed up. You know, that was messed up. Like, nobody deserved that. He definitely didn't deserve that. He was a good guy.
You think he was a good guy?
I think he was.
Only Kirk
good morals.
Captain Kirk.
The what?
The only Kirk you recognize is Captain Kirk. I don't know Charlie Kirk. I don't know who that is.
You don't know who it is?
I don't know who that is.
I know who it was. Like, I
only know about him when
all of us have flaws. I can't really tell you what to believe in or how to feel. Like, everybody's having a human experience. Like, why knock him for having this human experience or what he believe in?
Even though even though he says things that are anti-women, black, all that.
I can't judge him for that.
You can't.
I can't judge him for that. But I can use judgment. He didn't deserve that.
Right. As a human being.
Yeah.
You are very spiritual.
You know, yeah.
No,
I can't go left. I can't go left with that.
No, you sound like, you mean left, going left, not left.
Because I'm humanity.
Yeah.
I'm humanity and left first.
No, I love that. So the first person I spoke to didn't want to be on camera, and he said, I can't judge him because I'm not God. And so let him, whatever the reaction is, if the government wants to give him a state-like funeral, if they let him do it because God is the only judge. And
yeah, like, nobody really can judge him.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of like seen him before all of this happened, but I don't see whatever everybody else was seeing. So,
Yeah. Hey, that's how you feel. It's nice to see you.
No, it wasn't nice to see you here, was it, Don? I'm actually proud of him for releasing that, even though he didn't have to. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Thank you to Andy Opperman. He just bought a bunch of subs, gifted subs for people in the chat, which that unlocks so many wonderful things. Not the bonus content yet, although that does mean that we are at $50 raised towards the $75 and $100 goals, which is fantastic. Thank you, Andy. But what that does unlock is our premium members only Freedom Arcade live streaming video gaming fun time show, super happy fun time show on Friday nights. If you are subscribed to this channel, that means that you can now access our members only paywalled content here on our Rumble channel. So if you want to join us on Friday night, me and Steffi at 8 o'clock p.m. right here on this channel, you're now able to watch that live stream, which you wouldn't have been able to do if you weren't a subscribing member, which you are now. So welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the network. We call ourselves the For Liberty Network, and we're glad and thankful to have you here. And thank you very much, Andy. We appreciate you very much. All right, so the big title segment today, talking about mourning without censorship, justice without tyranny, and unity without surrender. The left wants us to bow our heads, not in grief, but in silence. They want us to shut up. We refuse. We will mourn. Excuse me. 1 second. The bonus content that's still baking behind the scenes here just went off. Some of you have seen the videos of these vigils that have been attacked around the country. Yesterday, I showed you video of a young man who was stomping on the flowers. Murals for Charlie Kirk have been defaced. All of this will do nothing but harden the resolve of our fellow patriots who will stand up for the values Charlie Kirk championed more than ever. Thousands of new applications have come in to Turning Point USA to create new chapters. The left has created a martyr that is more powerful than anything the right could have created on our own. So I guess we have them to thank for that. Wake Up America starts now. Patriots, let's drill down into that phrase from Vice President JD Vance. No unity, he said in his speech. No unity. Here's 10 seconds of it from yesterday. Or not. A lot of buttons here, guys. Give me a sec.
Government. It flows from each and every one of us. It flows from all of us. So when you see someone celebrating government, it flows from each and every one of us. It flows.
So, excuse me. Wrong clip, AP. Sorry, I got a million billion clips back here. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Excuse me. Here's the right clip.
Unity with people who scream at. There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics. There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree. Did you know that the George Soros Open Society Foundation and the Ford Foundation, the groups who funded that disgusting article justifying Charlie's death, do you know they benefit from generous tax treatment? They are literally subsidized by you and me, the American taxpayer. And how do they reward us? By setting fire to the house built by the American family over 250 years. I am desperate for our country to be united in condemnation of the actions and the ideas that killed my friend. I want it so badly that I will tell you a difficult truth. We can only have it with people who acknowledge that political violence is unacceptable, and when we work to dismantle the institutions that promote violence and terrorism in our own country.
There we go. That's JD Vance's statement. You're going to hear the media spin this as callous. You're going to hear them saying this is divisive, it's partisan. But what was JD Vance really saying, right? He was saying the obvious. You cannot unite with people who openly are cheering for the murder of their political opponents. You can't make peace with people who look at a young father shot in the neck while speaking to college students in front of his own daughter. And you can't just look at them and say, oh, we're going to unite with these kinds of people. There's no middle ground. There's no handshake across the aisle with somebody who is actively rooting for your murder, right? We're not talking about just three weirdos in their mom's basement. We're talking about pilots, doctors, professors, lawyers, people who are entrusted with lives and responsibility, who thought it was appropriate to go online and to celebrate Charlie's assassination. That's not fringe. That is a rot that has crept into the institutions and into the lives of our fellow Americans, a phrase that I'm using very loosely here. But this is what Vance was pointing to, and he's absolutely correct. Frickety in the chat says you can't unite with American jihadis. Exactly. Antifa operates as a loosely affiliated, loosely organized terrorist cell in the United States. And it is believed at this point that the terrorist may have, when I say terrorist, I'm using that definition descriptionally. If you kill someone for political means, that is a legitimate act of terrorism, which is what Tyler Robinson has done, allegedly. And in doing so, he has been radicalized by forums that he is alleged to have used online, places like Discord, where he was in servers where he may have coordinated with other individuals, which would make it a criminal conspiracy if someone gave him aid and succor to try to accomplish his goals. That means that there was another person involved, which would make it a criminal conspiracy, which would mean that the investigation would go beyond the person himself. And these are the people that have to be brought to justice. They have to be brought to justice. Those are crimes. We're not talking about what Pam Bondi is talking about here. We're talking about something else.
That's horrific. It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that.
No, you can't prosecute them for that. You can fire the people for that. You can't prosecute Office Depot for that. She doesn't understand she's not in tune with the moment of what's actually going on right now, right? This is the Attorney General of the United States. You can't prosecute Office Depot for refusing service to people. You can investigate and potentially prosecute people for saying things like this.
I'm ready for the great cleansing, dude.
Cleansing?
The cleansing.
What cleansing?
When we genocide conservatives in this country.
Are you going to be out in the streets with your Glock?
Maybe. I gotta go back to Nebraska and grab it. I'm ready for the
There we go.
the great.
So there you go. That's not hate speech. And you don't want to force them to bake the cake, right? Remember the whole debate during the 2016 elections? Austin Peterson said to Gary Johnson, "Don't force me to bake the gay Nazi cake, bro." Does anybody remember this, right? There's a couple of things at stake here, right? We're talking about legitimate terroristic threats versus somebody deciding to refuse business because they are bigoted. The Office Depot people. Right? The Office Depot people were bigoted against conservatives. They refused to print the Charlie Kirk vigil poster. And so what happens? The community steps in, people come in, and they got those people fired. And that's how the free market of ideas is supposed to work. What's the purpose of the DOJ? The purpose of the DOJ is not to police hate speech. It's not to police hate speech. It's not to force people to bake the cake. It's not to force Office Depot to bake the Charlie Kirk vigil. Let the free market do what the free market does, and let the government do what lawfully it is supposed to be doing. What is lawful? Pam Bondi is just not cut out for this, I don't think.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech.
No.
And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people, so we show them that some action is better than no action.
We will absolutely target you, go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle. There's free speech and then there's hate speech.
No.
But it sounds like it's a fucking gobbledygook.
We are looking forward to having a couple guests on the Wake Up America show today at 8 a.m. Central. We're going to have Camellia Peterson on to talk about the generation of lost boys in American society. At 8:30 a.m. this morning, we're going to hear from Devon Eriksen, science fiction author and public intellectual, to talk about his thoughts on the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And then at 9 a.m. Central Time this morning, if we can squeeze it in, we're going to have Angelo Pacheco to talk about a vigil happening in Kansas City, Missouri tonight. So if you're in Missouri or in Kansas, or if you can make it to Kansas City, they are going to have a vigil tonight or later this afternoon. So if you would like to join the candlelight vigil, we'll have more information on that. Angelo Pacheco is going to join us live at 9 a.m. Normally we end the show, but I overbooked the show this morning, a little overzealous. So we should have potentially 3 guests on the Wake Up America show. And if we unlock the bonus content, that means that we're going to have one of the pilots who was fired, who lost his job after he celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We're going to have one of those pilots on the Wake Up America show this morning as well. But that's he demanded $100 for us if he wanted to be on the show because he lost his job. So if we can raise $100 on the show today, and we're already halfway there, then we will have one of the fired pilots on the Wake Up America show today as our breakfast theater segment.
I was just fired from my job.
So I've lost my job. I got called into the office yesterday and told me that they could either fire me or I could put a resignation in, but that would look better. But they fired me, or they're getting rid of me because of my TikTok. Somebody screenshot a lot of my TikToks, and
I made some stupid comments about Charlie Kirk.
Now, this guy here is actually not real. That's a satire artist right there, so give him a laugh. But Jimmy Joe Patty says, good morning. It's my first day with Campaign Jobs USA. I love to hear it. You love to see it. Everybody give Jimmy Joe Patty an applause. So those are campaignjobsnow.com/apply. Those are my friends. They are a sponsor of the show, but that's Cliff Maloney, Remzo Martinez. It's a good group of people that you definitely want to be connected to. If you've been thinking about getting a job in politics, say you've been inspired by Charlie Kirk and you're saying to yourself, well, I love to work in politics, but how can I get a job or support myself? I have got jobs for as many people who want them. Pretty much, we can fill out the whole roster. If you guys want to work in politics and work with good people, some of the best connections that I have in politics, campaignjobsnow.com/apply. Tell them Austin Peterson sent you and you will get pushed right to the front of the line. So check out the website if you haven't already. Go to campaignjobsnow.com/apply. And everybody say congratulations to Jimmy Joe Patty because he got him a job. You get a job, you get a job, you get a job, you get a job. Everybody gets a job. Good morning, pineapples. It's your first time watching the Wake Up America show. You're like, what the hell is going on? What the hell? Oh my God, no way. Yeah. Frickety says the lung part is my favorite as well. That is also my favorite. All right, afuera with that stuff. Time to move on to the stories. Stop goofing around. Yesterday, Vice President JD Vance sat behind Charlie Kirk's microphone and said, we will dismantle the institutions that promote violence and terrorism in our own country. Thank you. That's what we're talking about. Not hate speech. Not getting the government involved in investigating Home Depot because they refused to fire some posters and they refused to make some posters and they already fired those people anyway. Not hate speech, but going after the terrorists who are making terroristic threats. That's all you have to do. Enforce the laws as they exist. Stephen Miller piled on. He says the administration is ready to unleash every resource in the DOJ and the DHS to disrupt and destroy these networks. And folks, of course, the crowd of left-wing journalists clutch their pearls immediately. Authoritarianism, McCarthyism, it's a witch hunt, right? But wait a minute. Who started the witch hunt? Who started the witch hunt? Right? Who built the websites? Right? Who began doxing teachers in the beginning? Who started this? Where did it come from? Who initially went after people's employers? The left invented cancel culture, and now they're experiencing its natural evolution, which we call consequence culture. They're getting a taste of it, and now suddenly they're crying about fairness. They're crying about fairness. After sending out the bat signal to every crazy on the planet, the Democrats now want to walk it back.
When you say we're at war and you must do anything you can to make certain that we protect our democracy, that is a bat signal to crazy people. When a Democrat leader says that President Trump is Hitler or a Nazi, it's a bat signal to crazy people. When the media, for example, in my state, the Cincinnati Enquirer, said that after President Trump was almost assassinated, much like Charlie was, that he brought it on himself, quote unquote. That sends a message to crazy people. When the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the largest newspaper in Ohio, analogizes JD Vance, our great vice president, your friend, my friend, who we know personally, and says that he's a Nazi sympathizer, that he reminds the editor of what it must have been like to be with Nazis in the 30s. Sends a bat signal to crazy people. It puts us all in danger.
There we go. A bat signal to crazy people. The left has bat signals and the right has dog whistles, says Frickety. Amy J.E. says the playground bullies cry now that the rules they set up are used against them. Exactly. It's insane. It's the world that we live in and the one that we have to live with. We're going to speak to Camellia Peterson here in about 20 minutes on the Wake Up America show. Then we'll have author Devon Eriksen and Angelo Pacheco will join us at 8 a.m. to give us a little update on the vigil for Charlie Kirk in Kansas City, Missouri tonight. We are streaming live from Jefferson City, Missouri, and we're going to hear from three great guests today. But at the end of the show, we'll hear from Angelo Pacheco to give us an update on the vigil in Kansas City tonight. So here's the thing, guys. I'm not interested in using the IRS to target opponents, wiretaps, blacklists, and audits, right? What I am interested in is going after people who are making violent terroristic threats. I'm also, that's in regards to what the government should be doing, it's different from what the private market should be doing. We should be going after people like the Office Depot people who refuse to make the Charlie Kirk signs. That is a legitimate and lawful authority that is vested in we the people, right? The Department of Justice should not be investigating Office Depot for something like that, forcing them to bake the cake, the Charlie Kirk cake, right? Metaphorically speaking. That's we the people's job. That's why we have boycotts. That's why we have accountability. That's why we place out there, hey, listen, did you know that your employee is out there refusing service to conservatives? That's something that employers should absolutely be notified of. That's we the people. Then there's what the government should be doing, and that's taking down violent terrorist networks, making violent terrorist threats, of which many leftists have done. Many leftist streamers out there calling for the genociding of conservatives, calling for our murder, calling for us to be stabbed, calling for us to be killed. The Hassan Pikers of the world, the Destinies of the world. Those people have committed actionable crimes that absolutely deserve to be investigated. Can I get an amen? We understand the difference here on the Wake Up America show. And thank you very much to Quest Fanning for the donations and St. Selma as well. Quest Fanning says, I've long said that legacy media is essentially broadcast MK Ultra. Very true. And thank you for that. We are at now $54 raised for the bonus content. Guys, we're well on the way, especially thanks to Andy Opperman. So let's talk about the dishonesty of the press. Outlets like The Nation ran pieces painting Charlie as a racist monster. Even after his death, they twisted his words to smear him. And Vance nailed him. He said those people were soulless and evil, and that the big foundations funding them might deserve to lose their tax-exempt status. Another legitimate, lawful authority of the government, which absolutely should be used, right? And boy, did that set off the legacy press, right? Because then, when he hits them where it hurts, the money. You have to understand that the beginning of the dismantling of the left's networks institutionally began when Donald Trump defunded U.S. aid money. U.S. aid money was always a front to funnel money into left-wing liberal and right-wing sort of neocon or big government liberal internationalist institutions that they deemed to be necessary. In reality, what it did was created these huge salaries for our political enemies of we the people. And in dismantling U.S. aid funding, it began the breaking down of the left's networks. They were using our own taxpayer money against us, organizing against us and against the interests of the people who were paying their salaries. That was a legitimate, lawful, and proper use of government authority to begin to dismantle left-wing networks. And we've got boodles and boodles of clips over here on the back end that I could show you today of people who have made, legally actionable threats who deserve to be investigated for the comments that they have made. Not because people say hateful things, that the hate speech, quote unquote, that Pam Bondi's talking about, right? It's not a legal thing, and it shouldn't be a legal thing. But if people are saying hateful things that we don't like, and we the people decide to go after their employers, that in itself is a separate act. That's not what Pam Bondi is talking about here. Again, she's the Attorney General of the United States, but she doesn't seem to understand these legal concepts.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech.
No.
And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle. There's free speech.
No, and that's across the aisle. That's definitely not good. That's not what we're trying to get. No. Not what we're going for. Charlie Kirk himself even said hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free. Yes, the speech that is not protected by the First Amendment. Violent, terroristic threats, calling for the genocide of your fellows, threatening to go and get your gun, saying things like this. What you're about to hear now, this is not free speech.
Great cleansing, dude. I'm ready for the great cleansing, dude.
Cleansing?
The cleansing.
What cleansing?
When we genocide conservatives in this country.
Are you going to be out in the streets with your Glock?
Maybe. I gotta go back to Nebraska and grab it.
To go back to Daddy's house and grab it. That's not it. That ain't it, kid. That ain't it, kid. Dance 10, looks 3. It's like to die. So why are so many institutions so quick to rationalize or minimize violence against conservatives? Why is it always both sides when someone on the right is murdered, but when the left takes a hit, that's, our democracy is under attack, right? It's not journalism, right? It's propaganda.
There's a lot of calls for unity now. I love calls for unity. There's also people saying both sides are to blame. This is a problem of political violence on both sides. I want to just explain briefly why this is so offensive to people on the right to hear right now. It's because it is not true. It is asking them to bear the burden of the guilt that harmed them. Before Charlie's body has even been buried, they are being asked to assume half of the guilt for a crime committed against their side, the likes of which there just is no parallel from right-wing violence to left. Has one Democrat come out and said, I apologize for calling Trump Hitler? Has one Democrat come out and said, I apologize for calling Charlie Kirk, hateful or spreading hate speech? Has one Democrat come out and said, I regret saying that the right are all fascists and Nazis? No. So I want to take this arm that's being held out to me in unity. But, you can ask for unity instead of revenge, and you should. You cannot ask for unity at the price of the truth. And I am being asked, in order to take that hand, to co-sign a lie that there is no guilt at the upper echelons of the Democratic Party, which brings me back to those two young men you started with.
Geraldo, you get the
But
last word.
Geraldo, you can't apologize because you never said it. But what about AOC who said it? And what about Kamala Harris who said it? And what about Joe Biden who said it? And what about Chris Murphy who said it? What about Gavin Newsom who said we're going to punch them in the face a week ago? Where's the apology? When Donald Trump says something and it leads, God forbid, to an assassination of a huge figure, then I will apologize. Then that will be the time to ask me for the apology. But right now, the greatest avatar on the right was murdered in cold blood because he told his family the exact same things that every major Democrat says on the regular. That's where the guilt is.
Nice. Pretty good. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Glad and thankful to have you here. If you haven't already, please do click the like button. If today's the first time that you've ever watched the Wake Up America Show, welcome. We're glad to have you here. Do me a favor, click the follow button before you leave the show today so that you can get a notification whenever we go live. This show is 5 days a week, Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time here on the Wake Up America Show. We'd love to have you be a regular guest. So if you click the follow button on your Rumble app, you will get a notification when this show goes live. If you're watching us anywhere but on Rumble, then and you'd like to be a participant in the community, all of the cool people, almost said effing cool people, all of the cool people are over on Rumble at rumble.com/AP4Liberty. That's where all the chat people are chatting. So we'd love to have you be a member of that community as well. So if you're watching us anywhere else, please do come over and join us there. We'd be glad to have you join us over on Rumble where we're at. You also see that text line at the bottom of the screen. We love hearing from people, and that text line's open night or day. You can, you need some therapy, send me a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I'm seeing some people who are texting me. Somebody actually texted me that there is going to be a vigil here in the Capitol tomorrow night. And then somebody else texted me that there was going to be a vigil in Jefferson City on the weekend. I honestly, unfortunately couldn't make it to the one tomorrow night here in Jefferson City, which really stinks because I would love to go because I teach classes on Wednesday nights. And so we are going to promote as many Charlie Kirk vigils as we can. There will be one in Kansas City tonight, and we're going to talk to Angelo Pacheco about that tonight at 8 a.m. at 9 a.m. Central Time. So today's Wake Up America show is going to go into overtime. We're going to go a little bit at length on this show today because we have 3 guests in the second hour, which is going to turn into a third hour. We've got lots to go. But speaking of education and speaking of training, guys, I am teaching a class, an online class. It's an ongoing digital class for people who want to learn how to use AI. If you guys have ever looked at any of the content that I'm creating here on the Wake Up America show and asked yourself, wow, how could I do something like that? How could I do what Austin is doing and create amazing pictures and reels and videos and thumbnails? If you want to get creative with AI and you don't know where to start, then my recommendation is for you guys to buy my course on how to use AI for creators. And it's not just like a regular course where you go in there and it's like, oh, there's only like a lesson plan and it's text. There are informational videos in there that have already been created. We've already had our first online live course. And that's really where a lot of the value comes from, because I do take you through each app that I use to explain it in greater detail. Today is actually the second live course, which you can absolutely join if you sign up for the AI course for creators. Austin, where do I find out more information? The place that you can find more information is at what we lovingly call the Grift Shop, at thegriftshop.com. It's really forlibertyshop.com. But if you go to thegriftshop.com, that'll take you to the same place. It's a redirect. If you go to thegriftshop.com and you scroll down, you can find our AI Mastery course, AI for Creators. Click on it to enroll now. It's $150, which I think is actually really cheap for all the information that you're getting and all the live sessions and trainings that you're getting. And you get live support for your artificial intelligence apps that you're using. You get a private Discord channel, which means you can actually ask us live questions while you're working on AI at any time, and we will answer those questions in our private channels. So all of the details are available there. It's $150 today, then $50 a month. It's not $200 today. It's $150 today, and then $50 a month for continuing education and for the support that we get. If you have questions about it, just let us know. You can send us a text. If you buy this AI course during the live show this morning, then that will one-shot the bonus content, and you guys will be able to see all of our bonus content that we have cooked up for you today. As it is right now, we've raised about $54 out of the $75 and $100 bonus content goals. But if somebody goes to the Liberty Shop this morning and buys the course, that will unlock all of our bonus content, and you're going to be a part of our exclusive community to learn how to use AI. And if you guys really enjoyed it and appreciate it, then I think you guys would, I think you guys will see. If anybody who is here in the class already, which I think we have a few people, could sing the praises of what you've learned so far already and what you've already been able to accomplish, then I would appreciate that. Makes a great testimonial, and we'd be grateful for it. So we're at a fork in the road, right? Down one path is the kind of Neville Chamberlain appeasement angle that I'm hearing from a lot of people, unfortunately, right? Where we all pretend that these online ghouls are just venting, and then we invite them back into polite society. Now, down the other path, which is the little bit more difficult path, right? It's straight, but it's narrow, is resolve, where we say enough is enough, right? Enough excuses, enough moral relativism. If you cheer for political violence, you are not part of the American family. You are not owed unity. Charlie Kirk's voice may have been silenced, but his work will multiply. Erica Kirk, she's vowing to continue his college tour this fall. Turning Point proves that the next generation is hungry for leadership, like we saw from Charlie. And this administration, led by men like JD Vance, is drawing the line. No unity with those who glorify murder. Patriots, this is not about revenge. It's not even really about consequence culture. This is about a moment of national clarity that we are called to as Americans. It's about saying that some lines can't be crossed. And if you want to know what courage looks like, it's not mouthing platitudes about healing. That's not what this is about. It's standing in the White House days after burying your friend and declaring to the mob that there will be no unity with evil. And that's why we're here this morning. To keep the truth alive, to honor Charlie Kirk's legacy, and to remind America that unity without truth is just surrender. There we go. Okay, guys. So we've got about 10 minutes until Camellia Peterson comes here live on the Wake Up America show. We'd love to show you the bonus content, but we can't just yet because we haven't unlocked it yet. So just an update. We're at $54 raised. And once we hit $75, so all we need is basically $20 more. Once we raise $20 more, that will unlock the mini documentary. And this is our little 5-minute bonus content that we unlock for you guys as the first phase of the bonus content. So once we raise another $20, that will unlock our 5-minute mini documentary. And that's how it works. So keep those Rumble rants rolling, and maybe head over to the Grift Shop over at thegriftshop.com. Make a purchase. Try our delicious Founding Flavors coffee. There we go. There we go. Thomas's Painkiller is my number one flavor. I think it's the most delicious of all of them. But our coffee is the best, and you can read our reviews, independently verified reviews about how delicious it is. Benjamin Franklin's Electric Elixir, Thomas's Painkiller, and Jeffersonian Java are, in my opinion, the most delicious of all of them. But everybody's got different tastes. So some people like Washington's Revolutionary Roast. Some people like Madisonian Morning. It just so happens that those are my 3 favorites. So Nelson65 says, open it. Open the door. The door shall be opened. Thus saith the Lord thy Nelson. Thank you, Nelson. The bonus content shall be unlocked according to Nelson 65. Yay. Yay, verily. Every once in a while, I got to break into a medieval accent. Medieval times. Open the door. Open the gate. Oh no, illegal immigrants. Close the gate. Close the doors. Sorry, I spent too much time with the Renaissance Festival recently. So that's it. That means that we have unlocked the bonus content. So you guys will get to watch the mini documentary before we go to Camellia. But because the mini documentary is processing behind the scenes and will be ready for download momentarily in any second, I'm going to play just a real quick commercial before we play that. And then we will come back and it will be Camellia Peterson. Don't go away. We'll play a 30-second commercial, then the bonus content, then Camellia, then Devon Eriksen, then Angela Pacheco, and if we hit the $100 bonus content, we will have one of the fired American airline pilots. Lost his job. He wants to talk about the intrusive thoughts he's been having at 30,000 feet lately. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a redcoat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors. And trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com. Florida is one of just 4 states that generally prohibit people from openly carrying firearms in public. That law, a Florida appeals court ruled on Wednesday, is inconsistent with the Second Amendment. The Constitution protects the right to carry arms openly for self-defense, Judge Stephanie Ray writes in a unanimous opinion from the First District Court of Appeal. Florida's open carry ban cannot be reconciled with that guarantee. Florida Attorney General James Uthmire welcomed the decision. Florida's First District Court of Appeals just ruled that Florida's open carry ban is no longer constitutionally enforceable statewide, he wrote on X. Our office fully supports the court's decision. This is a big win for the Second Amendment rights of Floridians. The case, McDaniels v. Florida, involves an activist who sought to test Florida's ban by inviting his own arrest. In July 2022, Ray notes, Stanley Victor McDaniels stood at a major intersection in downtown Pensacola, holding a copy of the U.S. Constitution and waving at passing cars. He had a loaded handgun tucked inside his pants using an inside-the-waistband holster. The holstered firearm was visible to anyone who passed by, but McDaniels was not threatening anyone. He had also set up a camera on a tripod to record his activity. When police questioned him, McDaniels explained that he planned a constitutional challenge to Section 790.053 of the Florida statutes. That provision, enacted in 1987, says, "It is unlawful for any person to openly carry on or about his or her person any firearm. Violating the prohibition is a second-degree misdemeanor, punishable by up to 60 days in jail and a $500 fine." Section 790.053 lists several exceptions, including for hunters and people with concealed carry permits who briefly and openly display a firearm to the ordinary sight of another person, unless it is intentionally displayed in an angry or threatening manner, not in necessary self-defense. But those exceptions come into play only when someone is prosecuted under the law, at which point he can invoke one of them as an affirmative defense. McDaniels had a concealed carry permit, and he did not display his handgun in an angry or threatening manner. But he was not using the gun in necessary self-defense, and he displayed it more than briefly. He therefore was clearly guilty of violating the statute. But prior to his trial, he moved to dismiss the charge on Second Amendment grounds. The trial court, which ultimately convicted him and sentenced him to probation and community service, denied his motion but asked the appeals court to resolve the question of the law's constitutionality. Before addressing that issue, Ray explains why the appeals court is not bound by the Florida Supreme Court's 2017 decision in Norman v. State, which upheld Section 790.053, deeming it substantially related to the state's important interest in regulating firearms as a matter of public safety. Applying intermediate scrutiny, the court balanced that interest against the burden imposed by the open carry ban, emphasizing that the law did not preclude self-defense, since permit holders still could carry concealed weapons. As Ray notes, the U.S. Supreme Court's 2022 ruling in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin explicitly rejected such means-end scrutiny. Under Bruin, a law that impinges on conduct covered by the Second Amendment's plain text is constitutional only if the government can show it is consistent with this nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. And since the U.S. Supreme Court's understanding of the Second Amendment is the supreme law of the land, Ray says we are bound to follow it. To meet the Bruin test, the government has the burden of citing historical analogs that are relevantly similar in motivation and scope. The closest analogs that Florida could offer were 8 19th century laws that prohibited concealed carry, the opposite of Florida's rule. Such laws were based on the premise that carrying concealed weapons was inherently suspect and dishonorable. Florida has not shown that open carry and concealed carry were understood to be interchangeable, Ray writes. To the contrary, the historical record, including the very sources the state invokes, demonstrates that the two were regarded as distinct, and that open carry was the default mode of bearing arms that preserved the core of the Second Amendment right. In 1840, for example, the Alabama Supreme Court said, "The legislature cannot inhibit the citizen from bearing arms openly because it authorizes him to bear them for the purposes of defending himself and the state, and it is only when carried openly that they can be efficiently used for defense." But if the emergency is pressing, it reasoned, there can be no necessity for concealing the weapon. That same year, the Tennessee Supreme Court likewise upheld that state's concealed carry ban. It rejected the notion that there can be no difference between a law prohibiting the wearing of concealed weapons and one prohibiting the wearing of them openly. To the contrary, it said, there is a manifest distinction. In the state constitution, it noted, the citizen's right to bear arms in defense of themselves is coupled with the right to bear them in defense of the state, and those weapons must necessarily be borne openly. In 1846, the Georgia Supreme Court rejected a complete ban on public carry, emphasizing the difference between secretly arming oneself and doing so openly. The latter, it said, was protected by the natural right of self-defense and the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. The court concluded that a prohibition against bearing arms openly is void because it is in conflict with the Constitution. Upholding Louisiana's concealed carry ban in 1850, that state's Supreme Court said the law interfered with no man's right to carry arms, to use its words, in full open view, which places men upon an equality. This is the right guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States, and which is calculated to incite men to a manly defense of themselves, if necessary, and of their country, without any tendency to secret advantages and unmanly assassinations. When it upheld a conviction for carrying a concealed weapon in 1867, the Florida Supreme Court said the relevant law, which expressly allowed open carry, was aimed at individuals who arm themselves for the purpose of committing some malicious crime, or of taking some undue advantage over an unsuspecting adversary. It also noted the concern that men in vexed assemblies or public meetings, conscious of their advantage in possessing a secret and deadly weapon, often become insulting and overbearing in their intercourse, provoking a retort or an assault, which may be considered as an excuse for using the weapon, and a deadly encounter results, which might be avoided where the parties stand on a perfect equality and where no undue advantage is taken. In short, Ray says, the historical record from the relevant period shows that our nation did not regard concealed carry and open carry as interchangeable. The right to keep and bear arms did not extend to the carrying of weapons in secret, which was regarded as the practice of the cowardly and the disreputable, and as incompatible with the legitimate exercise of the right of self-defense. Open carry, by contrast, was understood to be the manner of bearing arms that gave full effect to the rights secured by the Second Amendment. That record makes clear that open carry was regarded as the lawful and preferred mode of bearing arms, while concealed carry was viewed as dangerous to public safety and ineffective for self-defense, Ray writes. No historical tradition supports Florida's open carry ban. To the contrary, history confirms that the right to bear arms in public necessarily includes the right to do so openly.
Well, it's something I would do, yeah. If I have support from the people back here, I think we'd start with Pam, I think. But I would, if you give me, I would do that 100%, and others also, by the way. But Antifa is terrible.
Are there other groups that you can think of?
There are other groups, yeah, there are other groups. We have some pretty radical groups, and they got away with murder. And also, I've been speaking to the Attorney General about bringing RICO against some of the people that you've been reading about that have been putting up millions and millions of dollars for agitation. These aren't protests. These are crimes, what they're doing, where they're throwing bricks at cars of ICE and Border Patrol. And they come in with a beautiful new car. They're so proud. It's Border Patrol, ICE, it's got whatever it is. And they're throwing rocks at it. And after 50 yards, it looks like an old beat-up vehicle. It was just brand new. It was just bought for the purposes, and they don't have to take that anymore. I let it be known. We'll take responsibility. They don't have to take it anymore, and they don't want to take it. They were told by a past administration, it became almost a culture, if somebody throws a rock at you, do nothing. If somebody spits in your face, do nothing. And I say, when they spit, you hit. Do whatever you want.
Yes. Yes. When the looting starts, the shooting starts. When they spit, you hit. Exactly. I like RICO for those Soros groups. Nice one, Donnie. Donnie boys. Nelson65 notices Austin is sitting on a nuke. Very true. No, I'm sitting on a pineapple. Joining me now is my friend and fellow Liberty warrior, Camellia Peterson, joining us live here like she always does. Tuesdays and Thursdays on the Wake Up America show. Good morning. How you doing, CJ?
Morning.
All right. So, Camellia, I brought you on here to get your insight. And today is Tuesday. Have you been on the show since the Charlie Kirk assassination? It happened Thursday. So...
No, it happened Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay, so you were with us on
yeah,
Thursday.
we did do one right after. It's kind of a blur.
That's right. Yeah, it is kind of a blur. Thank God that we had you there the next day to make people feel better. Maybe you can help us out today, too, because, the shooter himself, Tyler Robinson, it's kind of a tragedy within a tragedy, right? The shooter himself, right? Not just what he did, but why he did it, because behind the mugshot of this guy is a bigger problem in our culture. The Wall Street Journal reported on this, calling it America's Lost Boys, young men retreating from real life, losing purpose, and sometimes choosing violence. And also, Camellia, you wanted to issue some corrections to what I was saying yesterday that you weren't happy about that I said to John Miltimore. So feel free to take on whichever you would like to begin with, Lost Boys or the wrong things that I said yesterday, according to you.
Well, I was not keeping a checklist of the things that you said, but
it'll be a long checklist.
I will say that I am probably a little more, I don't know, it's a very nuanced topic, right? I was probably a little more aligned with John in terms of approach. And this is kind of different, than the Lost Boys topic, related, but a little bit different. In terms of like what our response to this is, and actually, my issues with, or my disagreements with you, and I know that to a certain extent, sometimes you're stirring the pot and being a little hyperbolic, but like, I do think, yes, maybe a little, I do think that, there has to be some measure of, like, if we lose all nuance, like it kind of really concerns me as far as where we go from here in terms of a society, because we do have to like viscerally condemn what happened and the very idea that, you know, violence is the answer to speech. And so, but the problem that I have seen is I have no issue with people getting fired for things that they're saying that their employer decides that, you know what, you do not reflect our values. And so we do not want you representing us. Because like it or not, like, you know, in our work, if we work for other people, we are to a certain extent, you know, a reflection on them. And so I think a lot of companies are, you know, pretty careful to, you know, honor free speech in the sense that what you do in your personal time is your personal business. But if you're going to make yourself very public about it and you're going to blow up all over the internet, that's a little bit of a different thing. And that's what we've seen. But the problem I have with some of this is like, we have like the backlash has been so severe that we're now getting into like what qualifies as celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. Like, can anybody say anything negative at all? And that all of a sudden qualifies as celebration and worthy of being fired for? I don't think that's the case. And I've seen several examples, you know, just in the last 24 hours of people who are what I would consider getting canceled because they didn't just celebrate Charlie Kirk's, or they didn't celebrate Charlie Kirk's death necessarily, but they said something negative. Like I know you saw it, and I've seen several people in Missouri post about it, but the Dent County public officer here in Missouri who made some sort of online negative comment, I read that, and do I think that, you know, she's probably a hateful person when it comes to that sort of thing? Maybe. But I don't know that I thought that it crossed the line into celebrating his actual death.
Okay.
So
well, listen, we're all glad and thankful that you're there to defend pieces of trash. And we're all glad that the libertarians are out there. Whenever there's a scumbag who's getting offed or finding the prostitute, the hooker, we appreciate that. You know, the libertarians are always standing up for the scum of the earth at a moment's notice. Let's back off. Maybe just back off for a moment though, and maybe find the righteousness of libertarianism, and that is, in my opinion, and I wonder if you would agree with me. It sounds like you're agreeing with me, that it is righteous that people who are celebrating the literal murder, that those people should lose their jobs. Is that a righteous cause?
Yeah, I have no issue with that. I mean, Casey Maddox posted a really good kind of lengthy piece about this on Twitter yesterday, and you know, he talks about this difference between social approbation or shaming, social shaming, and cancel culture. And I think that is his point kind of through there is like there is a time and a place for social shaming, and people should suffer the consequences of their actions. Like the hard part in this is like, where do you decide where the line is between what somebody says that crosses into what's the appropriate measure? What is the appropriate consequences for this? It's really, in a lot of ways, it's like, you know, how do you determine, you know, appropriate consequences for crime? So, but this is like people are all over the map on this. So yes, like I am totally in agreement. If a teacher, like somebody who plays a prominent role, and this is an example that he gave as well, if a teacher is going to say, you know, horrible things like that, and they're going to say it publicly so that other people see, then that's going to make me seriously reconsider whether I want that person's influence in my child's life. And I will say that this is where I do not understand why more conservatives are not beating down the doors of their government demanding school choice, because this is where the problem happens. And if you do not get these kids, then like where do you think this generation right now that we have is? Like,
if anyway, I'm hyperbolic, then you're a propagandist. Camellia Peterson for school choice. We agree with school choice. Yes, I agree. It's all good,
well,
Camellia.
Hey, at least it's not government propaganda. We're outlawing government propaganda now, right?
I know. I appreciate that. Here's the thing, Camellia. We need to talk about We can fight, this or go back and forth on this and the nuances of this for hours. But I want to talk about this killer because that piece in the Wall Street Journal really stuck with me, and I sent it to you to discuss because you and I are having these gender discussions a lot on our show. When we look at this Tyler Robinson story, he was a bright kid. He was from a good family. He had a scholarship. He had everything going his way to have a bright future. And then he just spiraled into an obsession with violence, an obsession with Charlie Kirk, getting into these online communities, promoting transgenderism, furries. What does this tell us, do you think? What is the cautionary tale here? What is the moral of this tale from this bright, promising young man from a conservative background to spiral into violent leftism? What's the story here? How does this happen, Camellia?
So one of the first things when I read the things that I thought about when I read this article about the lost boys, because there is like this whole, generation of boys that have grown up and they are, immersed in online communities. And a lot of times those can be very negative places. And they are, it used to be that universities, right, where all of the controversial ideas were fomented and people got sucked into these kind of things. And it's not that way. So, it is that way, but it's not the only place for that anymore because we are so much more connected. But with being so much more connected, I think this is the downside. But one of my first thoughts reading that is, it takes both parents, but where are the dads in these boys' lives? But then my next thought is that as a parent, you can do everything right that you have in your toolbox or that you know to do or you are equipped to do, and stuff like this can still happen that you don't see coming, you have no control over, and you're left. I feel terrible for that boy's parents, and a lot of it's being talked about. His dad, because his dad turned him in, and I just his parents are wondering where in the world they went wrong, and I get that. Like as a parent, you're always questioning, am I screwing my kids up, right?
And in some cases, they are.
Yeah, for sure. It is just, and I think this is, it's not just enough even to be a conservative household and to have all the right ideas that your kids are surrounded with. But if you're sending them off to other places where those ideas are getting negated, or if you are not being so very intentional in how you spend time with your kids, there are so many things that fall through the cracks because, if kids are more than ever, kids need to be equipped with the ability to think critically and question everything that they come across and have something that serves as that, that foundation and a sounding board to bounce those ideas off and question whether or not there is, value and truth and goodness in those things. And so I think if your child is not equipped, they get sucked into these things and it sounds good and it appeals to their already, sense of frustration that they may be feeling about things. It feeds that, and they find identity and a sense of belonging and something to validate, this unhappiness, whatever it is within them. So I don't think that there's any perfect answer, but I do think that this is one of the things, from a parenting perspective that we see that is so challenging in the digital age is how do you connect with your kids? And I think that we are seeing as a society, kind of the response to that now when you talk about the laws that have been made as far as phones in schools, and the balance is always how do we balance liberty and personal responsibility with safety, right, and a healthy society.
Do you see Robinson? Do you think that this guy is an outlier, or do you fear that this might be a pattern with young men in this country?
I think for the most part he's an outlier. I won't say a complete outlier because I do think we have a significant number of young people who are susceptible to this. I don't think that every Anon account we see online talking about these kind of things is a bot. but I also, we talk, how we used to always say, Twitter's not real life. the internet is not real life. Well, Hannah Cox posted something about this the other day, and I agree, and something I've been thinking about a lot. I don't know that we can say that anymore because everybody is so online that this is it is real life in a way, but I think the difference is it's not real life in the sense of how people will treat each other face to face. Do you remember when you joined Facebook?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Why do you ask?
Okay, well, so I can't remember what year it was that I.
It was the year that MySpace ended. This would have been 2006 or 7.
Okay, so I've always been a little slow to these things, and so I never did MySpace, and I was slow in getting onto Facebook. But I will tell you, the biggest thing that struck me when I got on Facebook was seeing these people that I had known all of my life, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you said that out loud. You said that for everybody to see. And it was true. People were saying things that you never would have thought that they would say. They certainly would not say those things in person to you, but they were putting it out there for everybody to see. And it just sort of I don't know. To me, it also at first, I think I got acclimated to it, but at first it felt really strange to just tell everybody, what I thought and what I was doing. Why does anybody want to know what I think or what I'm doing? So I do think that sort of social media culture has also created a difference. It's shifted a difference in all of us in a lot of ways, kind of in how we assume our communication with other people.
You missed out on MySpace, by the way. You would have totally been in my top 8. Not that you know what that is. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm Austin Peterson. Glad and thankful to have you here. Please click the like button. And if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America Show, click the follow button. I'm speaking to my good friend, Camellia Peterson. I'm Austin Peterson, and we are of no relation. Everybody thinks we are, but we're not. We're just good friends.
One of the things, going back to that real quick, is that I think the whole point of that is that when we see this is internet, digital, Twitter's not real life. I think it is in the sense that we don't do these things face to face publicly, but I think social media doesn't make people act differently. I think it reveals who we are. And I think we've talked about this with Justin before, so that disturbs, me on a cultural level, right? But,
by the way, speaking of Justin, did you hear the news about him joining the Republican Party?
No, missed this.
You missed the Friday show. You have got to watch the Friday shows because Justin comes on, things happen. So he actually has now, after Charlie Kirk's assassination, Justin is like, all right, that is it. And he became a registered Republican. And he actually joined another organization within the Republican Party that I will not reveal until Friday. So you'll have to wait until then to hear what it is. So,
guesses. I have some guesses.
Okay, take your guess.
No.
No, you don't want to guess?
Are there any cabins involved?
Oh, Camellia. There may be. Are there any logs involved, I think is what's really important. But you'll have to wait to find out on Friday. Justin will be there. He and I are both actually joining the Sons of the American Revolution at the same time. But we had our first meeting this last week, and I was talking to Tony too about this, about getting involved in civic organizations, because it's kind of I don't see a whole lot of our people joining these civic organizations. And to be frank, I don't qualify for most of the civic organizations that exist. So there's Knights of Columbus, and there's the Freemasons and the Rotaries Club and the Kiwanis Club and things like that. And in order to be a member of most of those clubs, you have to make a profession of faith. Or Knights of Columbus, you have to be Catholic. But the Sons of the American Revolution, of course, you have to have a tie to a Revolutionary War patriot, which we did. But I was talking to Tony about this last week, and he's kind of full-blown Sicilian, so unfortunately, womp womp, he can't qualify. But might be something that you might want to look into, because I do think that if we want to change the culture, the problem with people like ourselves who share our worldview is that we're so individualistic that we tend to be atomistic, and therefore the individual actions that people like ourselves are taking can't have the kind of impact that our collectivist opponents have because they naturally collectivize. The left does it, and conservatives, being more collectivistic than libertarians, they are more prone to creating institutions that can express power. And if you can't create an institution to express power, like say the For Liberty Network, then it might be a good idea for you to create to join an institution like the Rotary Club or the Kiwanis Club or the Sons of the American Revolution or the Freemasons or the Masons, or whatever institution in your locality that you might qualify for. Amy J.E. says, my kid is a Mason. That's cool. I don't qualify for them, unfortunately. But
I 100% agree. Also something that I think about pretty frequently because a lot of these organizations are dwindling. They have mostly an older, membership population, and they do good things for the community. And this is always our challenge is like when you talk about doing things at the local level, like our big challenge in the private sector doing things is communicating that we're doing those things and making sure that people know that we're doing those things, because the government, like everybody looks to the government, and we have to make sure in the private sector when we're taking care of our communities, the people know those resources are there. It's one of the things, by the way, when you talk about like major movements like Charlie Kirk and the movement he created on campus, I've thought a lot in the last few days about what happens in the long term as the outcome of this? Because right now you see thousands and thousands of new applications for chapters being submitted. And I've seen people all over my timeline who are looking to start things. I mean, like, I think that is a good thing, but there's also a part of me that wonder how long that lasts, because the truth is that people tend to be pretty, they have short-term memories and we are sometimes fickle. When you are doing something as a reaction, it tends not to last as long. And so it's why we saw so many things die out, so many grassroots groups die out after COVID. And so this is always the challenge, but
well, that's why you got to strike when the iron's hot. So in some ways, you've got to get while the getting's good. I mean, and every crisis is an opportunity, they say.
Right. I do think, though, that you're right about these local organizations, because I think we underestimate the impact on our society as a whole that individual people make, because it's terrible and a tragic thing when something like this happens and it's a major public figure, and they are kind of more of a magnet to those kind of things. But it's also true that these tragedies happen to everyday people that we don't know their names, who are doing wonderful, impactful things with their lives, at the local level that may not have this big national stage where more people know about it. But to me, so much of the value in our society is created at the local level. And sometimes I think it is just as much or more of a long-lasting impact. And I just don't ever want us to underestimate the value of what we do at the local level, because I think you're right. I mean, it is work, and I have such a deep appreciation for people who do local ministries in their hometown.
Nelson
It's a lot of
65
work.
says you can try the Elks Lodge. There we go.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You could join the Moose Knuckles. Hey, Camellia, we've got to run. We got Devon Eriksen coming up, and then Angela Pacheco is going to talk about the candlelight vigil in Kansas City tonight for Charlie Kirk. Is there anything that we missed, or anything that you want to plug or say before we let you go?
I don't think so. I'll tell you what, one thing I would like for everyone to go to my X account, because I have a poll up, and I'm going to keep it up for a couple of days, because this is an outcome of what we are doing, because the unfortunate tendency with what we are seeing in current events is a tendency on the right towards authoritarianism. And so I have a little poll up there, really curious. I would like more people's feedback on it, because this is the trend I'm seeing, and we can talk about it another day. But anyway, go to my X and take the poll.
Camellia Peterson, always here with us Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. Central Time, a central figure in the For Liberty Network. Thank you very much, Camellia. We'll see you soon.
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day. That's Camellia Peterson. Yeah, she'd be in our top 8 on MySpace for sure. She has no idea what that is. You know what? Talking about starting organizations, we have an organization. It is the For Liberty Network. And while Camellia was saying this, I actually just started a brand new channel over in our Discord for activism and events. Let's get active. Let's post our events. Are you a member of our Discord? What? No. Why not? What's wrong with you? Why haven't you joined the Wake Up America Show's For Liberty Network at our Discord? How do you find it? It's simple. You just go to forlibertynetwork.com. That will take you to our Discord server. There you can join with fellow patriots whenever we're not live here on Rumble or on X or whatever. We're all hanging out over in Discord. So let's build the For Liberty Network's community, helping to support the shows that we produce to get the word out, but we can also build a community amongst ourselves. That patriotic community now available at forlibertynetwork.com. That's the number 4libertynetwork.com. I got to run. Author Devon Eriksen wants to weigh in this morning on the Charlie Kirk assassination, hate speech, cancel culture, consequence culture, all of that. And then Angela Pacheco on the vigil in Kansas City tonight. Plus, we've unlocked the bonus content, all of it. We're going to have the pilot who was fired by American Airlines for celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. He will be on my show today after all that, so stick around. It's a Wake Up America show.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our...
I just got fired without warning. I found out because I couldn't log on to Slack or Outlook. So that was really fun. I don't know who needs to hear this, but your boss is not your friend, ever, and you're not safe at your job. So you should cultivate backup options at all times, because capitalism sucks and you're not safe, unfortunately. And I'm gonna be fine, but a lot of people in my position wouldn't be fine.
Hi, my name is Nancy D, and I was fired on Friday for saying that I was having a hard time finding empathy for Charlie Kirk. Apparently.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Click that like button, and if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. Click the follow button as well. Every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Decision Points over in the chat just says, love this video. AP, this is what made me hit the subscribe button. First time I watched the show, knew it was a show I wanted to keep on the Rolodex. Thank you. Gracias, amigo. We appreciate you very much. Washington Post columnist Karen Attiah claims she was fired after her social media posts following the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Oh, womp womp. Is it the consequences of my own actions? She says that it was for her free speech. The Post called it gross misconduct. Joining us now to discuss this and more, science fiction author Devon Eriksen. He's written brilliantly about the intersection of culture, free speech, and the dangerous paths societies can take when dissenting voices are silenced. Today, we need his perspective on a story that says a lot about where we are as a country. Good morning, Devon, and welcome back to the Wake Up America show. Glad to have you here today.
Well, good morning, Austin. Always a pleasure to be here.
Devon, cancel culture, consequence culture, your take on the leftists that are losing their jobs and their livelihoods. Should we have unity with these people? Should we try and bring people together in kumbaya? Or is it time for enemies at the gates, Genghis Khan, let's surround them and we'll decide what to do with them after we've captured them?
It's somewhere in between. But we can't have unity. We can't have a dialogue because they shot the unity guy. They shot the dialogue guy. Charlie Kirk, and I didn't know him, so I won't eulogize him too far. I'll leave that for his friends. But he was, to all appearances, the guy who would talk to anybody in a calm, polite, respectful manner. And he got a lot of traction that way. And a lot of lies were told about him. And those lies resulted in somebody slightly unhinged deciding that he should die. So we can't go back to the status quo. That kind of action, not just on the part of one deranged assassin, but on the part of all the people who radicalized him, that has to have consequences. That has to change how we deal with those people. And one of the ways that this has changed how we deal with those people is we've started to sort of publicize their actions. Hey, do you know that this person is posted this long unhinged rant on, TikTok or whatever, celebrating the death of a public figure who was shot in the neck in front of his 5-year-old daughter? And, naturally, employers are saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm not entirely comfortable with this. I have people working for me in various capacities as, trying to launch my audiobook productions and so forth. And if I found out that one of them had this sort of worldview, that would have consequences. And this is not precisely the same as what we called cancel culture 6 years ago, 4 years ago, what have you. That back then it was, this police officer privately made a $25 donation to Kyle Rittenhouse's defense fund, a guy who was actually innocent and just defending himself. And let's root this out and let's call his employer, and his employer is going to fire him because he's scared of public backlash. What we have now is different. What we have now is, this person working for me is a ghoul. I am genuinely disturbed by this. Sometimes if somebody does something, it's not just what they did, it's what we found out about them because they did it. It's what we found out about what kind of person they are. And if someone is able to dehumanize, not only a moderate public figure, but by all accounts, a gentleman, so far that they're willing to countenance and celebrate his murder, what are they going to do in the context of your business? So I think these employers are genuinely disturbed
I
by
think,
what they're seeing.
Certainly, and I agree with them. The Attorney General of the United States has spoken out about this, talking about hate speech, and I tried to make the distinction between what I saw as conduct supporting violent terrorist actions or calling for more murders versus just saying that you didn't like the guy or refusing service. So, for example, there were employees at Office Depot who got fired because they refused to print posters for a vigil for Charlie
So they were
Kirk.
Fired for refusing to do their job.
For refusing to do their job.
You get paid to do your job.
Right.
You refuse to do your job, hasta la bye-bye.
It completely makes sense. And that's the marketplace of ideas, because the backlash and the video showed what was going on, and that should be done in the marketplace of ideas. It's just like the gay wedding cake. If you don't want, if someone won't bake you a gay wedding cake because they're Christian, go to the one next door. We shouldn't be forced to bake the gay wedding cake.
Yeah.
But what's the role of government in this? Because when we talk about no unity, there's talk about going after Antifa, going after them like Richard Nixon did his political enemies. Yesterday, we had a gentleman on this show who says that we need to dismantle Antifa the same way that the government dismantled the KKK. What is the proper necessary role for law enforcement in this scenario?
Mm-hmm. Well, the way I've heard about this is that they're thinking of pursuing it like a RICO case, seeing Antifa as a criminal organization. And, if there is any sort of criminal conspiracy to commit murder, that in itself is a crime. So that's black letter law. Going after Antifa is not controversial. That's the basic criminal justice process. You see that there might have been a crime. You investigate it. You find out who is guilty of it. You prosecute it. This is not some big political sea change. This is just what we do with criminal organizations. This is how we handle criminal organizations in our society. Personally, I think Antifa is a criminal organization, but it's not very organized. There's no central leadership. It's more like a standalone complex. So
they're talking about
you
RICO.
Probably can.
Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that specifically, because they're talking about RICO charges potentially for the George Soros institutions that tend to fund, that they are alleging are funding many of these protests, where bricks will suddenly appear and violence will occur, and potentially doing RICO charges after some of these institutions and nonprofits. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, again, that is a matter of gathering the evidence and establishing the basic pillars of a RICO case, which is a conspiracy, a pattern of crime, knowledge, etc. I would have to go to the exact law article to be more specific than that. But I think an investigation is warranted. And I think that trying to decide right here on a talk show what the outcome of that investigation should be is putting the cart before the horse. We don't have the ability to do the investigation right here. But in terms of this kind of what's called cancel culture, I think we need to focus on two things. First of all, the word cancel culture lumps up a lot of acts. But like we've just been talking about, we have people getting fired from their jobs by private employers for a great variety of causes. And we have the government deciding potentially to investigate certain things as crimes. And these get lumped together under cancel culture but it's actually a great variety of different acts that morally they're different. But there's something that I'd like to focus on in terms of the left is saying, oh, this is cancel culture. You said you didn't like cancel culture. It's true. You can describe this as cancel culture, and the right had some moral arguments against cancel culture. And, the response is, first of all, these are very different acts. Absolutely, they are very different acts. But in a larger political arena, I think we have to remember that there is no moral equivalence between aggression and retaliation.
Agreed.
It absolutely matters who did it first.
Thank you. Yes, this is what I've been trying to explain to some of my liberty friends who are out there saying, no, we need to come together and kumbaya. This needs to be a moment of unity with these people. And I'm just like, where is the in the non-aggression principle? Does it mean that there's never any retaliation? Does that mean, as a matter of fact, Devon, you might appreciate this. Sorry to interrupt just a second. But yesterday I had someone on who was saying, oh, in West Side Story, remember the Jets and the Sharks, Tony was trying to get them together. And he was saying, let's not have guns or blades. Let's have just a good old fashioned fist fight. And I didn't even think about it, but my brother Justin, big musical theater guy, called me up and he goes, does anybody remember what happened to Tony at the end of West Side Story? Even after what he did, he got shot. It didn't help. He's murdered.
Yeah. Well, this is stupid libertarianism.
Thank you.
This is the naive version of libertarianism, and all they do is hurt the libertarian cause.
Agreed.
Because any libertarian who is an adult acknowledges that before you can have a society with liberty, you have to deal with the people who are the reason we can't have nice things.
Yes. The people who are taking away our liberties and our life and our property.
Yeah. It's not, the government is not the only threat to liberty. Anarchy and chaos is also a threat to liberty. Violence in our streets is also a threat to liberty. Political assassination on the part of fringe groups of nutcases is a threat to liberty. What happened to Charlie's freedom to speak? Blam. That's not liberty. You have to deal with those people before you can have liberty, and you have to deal with them in an effective manner. So if somebody is hitting you with a stick, maybe you say, I don't like being hit with sticks. People shouldn't hit each other with sticks. But if he keeps doing it, then you snatch the stick and you hit him back with it. And then if he says, well, you said hitting people with sticks is wrong, you hypocrite. Well, you started it, you fucking hypocrite. We're ending it. The whole goal of practicing cancel culture against the left now is to make it hurt so badly that they genuinely say, okay, we surrender, never cancel culture again. No more sticks. And that's what we have to do in order to prevent more people from dying. We have to fight back, or they're going to keep doing this.
Completely agree. This is why we bring on the author of Theft of Fire, science fiction author Devon Eriksen, as often as we can on the Wake Up America show. Camellia over in the chat was saying, I'm a science fiction fan. I need to get some of his books. You darn right you do. And you could get them at Amazon. They're also, have you released the audio version of the book, or is that still pending?
That is imminent. We are going through the final notes, and that will be in a matter of weeks, I think.
There we go. So we'll definitely keep an eye out for that. But we can get a copy of Theft of Fire right now on Amazon.com. He's the only author that I bring on here to promote his books instead of my own. So while you're on Amazon, put a copy of Theft of Fire in there and grab a copy of Grover, the Nope President, for your kids to teach them about the president who said no. We're talking this morning, Devon Eriksen, about the cancel culture, consequence culture, violence, aggression, and hate speech and free speech. So in regards to the question of hate speech, the Attorney General came out yesterday, Pam Bondi, saying that, we will go after you for hate speech. And she's saying that she said specifically that they would use the government to go after Office Depot after that situation occurred. Do you think that she's off the mark here in these statements? A lot of people are pillorying her for her comments about hate speech. Did you happen to hear them or not?
I did not.
Would you mind? Can I play them for you very briefly?
Yes, please.
It's a 30-second clip. Just let me play it for you real quick, and then we'll come up and you can listen. Hold on one second.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
Even across the aisle there, Devon. So they'll prosecute hate speech against our own people. So your thoughts?
Well, this sounds like woofing to me. I mean, they're, the Trump administration has to say certain things, and ultimately these, when they step over the line constitutionally, they usually fail in court. Now, I didn't hear anything about going after Office Depot there.
No, but she does say that in another clip.
Okay.
And I do have that, I believe. Here's what she says in the other clip. Hold on just one sec.
Okay.
That's horrific. It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that. But Sean,
there you go. Devon, your response.
Okay. That is what they're thinking of here is under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, where businesses are not allowed to choose their customers based on certain criteria. And, I will go on record and have gone on record saying that I think the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is unconstitutional and a terrible idea. But, as so long as it is law, they can look at this and they can possibly build a case. Now, as far as going after Office Depot is concerned, that kind of sounds a bit silly, given that, okay, these people were fired immediately. If you're running a small business, you can barely control how your employees interact with your customers. If you're running a national business, it's pretty much hopeless. You're always going to get a weirdo or two. And the best you can do is fire them the instant you detect them. Now, when she says, the businesses have an obligation to fire people who speak this way, I don't think constitutionally you can argue for a legal obligation. But I think if she's saying they have a moral obligation, maybe you could argue that. It's certainly common sense. It's certainly common sense when you have a national chain and they're pissing off one side of the culture, and some of your employees are pissing off one side of the culture war. You want to get rid of them because you're not in the politics business. You are in the printing posters business. So I don't think we need to go as far as trying to create some sort of legal obligation. I think that the employers are doing just fine on their own when we point out that the employees are ghouls. They're already doing the right thing. I don't think we need to twist their arms unless that stops happening.
Whenever we have Devon Eriksen on this show, the view count goes whoosh, through the roof. Today's no different. We're trending at number 2 right now over on X, almost beating the number 1 show, the American Sunrise Show over there. Congratulations to them for all of their great success, and congratulations to us because my scheme to create the greatest morning show in all of the right wing is succeeding because of people like Devon Eriksen. Devon, is there anything about this story in particular, any angle that you think we've missed, or an important point that you'd like to make before we let you go, sir? And then, of course, please plug your incredible body of work.
Well, I think that we need to remember not just to say, okay, what we're doing with getting people fired is different. It's also to remember that there is no moral equivalence between aggression and retaliation. And this is something that we have to remember beyond cancel culture. Because we on the right, we in this sort of reaction movement to the radical leftists do not have the power to turn down the temperature. The only way we could turn down the temperature is to surrender and allow Western civilization to be destroyed. So any rhetoric to turn down the temperature needs to be addressed to the left because they're the ones turning it up in the first place. What we have to do is remember that we are retaliating to stop the nonsense. So even if we do exactly what they did, it is not the same because we never wanted this. We didn't throw hands to begin with. That is important.
We didn't start the fire, but we didn't steal it either. But if you want to read about thieves of fire,
yes, this is the body of work. This is Theft of Fire. First novel, second one's coming out hopefully a little bit later this year. And so far it's done really well. We're producing an audiobook. We raised $42,000 to do that. So we've had a lot of traction.
It's just really exciting to see, Devon. I love your insight. I have your posts set to notifications so that whenever you tweet, I get the notification on my phone. I highly recommend that other people do that. Follow the author of Theft of Fire, Devon Eriksen, because he has been so kind to us and so generous with his time. They always come on the show whenever they can, and I appreciate it. Devon, you have a wonderful day, and take care. We'll talk to you soon. There we go. That's author Devon Eriksen. Get his book at Amazon.com. The audio version coming out very soon. Theft of Fire. Did you guys think that the show is over? Guess what? It's not. The show's not over, baby. What do you mean, boo? That's the wrong button. Afuera. With that button. Okay. We've got another guest, Angelo Pacheco. There's going to be a Virgil. There's going to be a virgin. No, there'll be no virgin. Angelo is a virgin. I'm pretty sure he is. He's a good Catholic boy. He would never until he's married, right? How did it get from vigils? This is how fast things can break down. John Knox says, I think you should post a link to your Discord, AP for Liberty. I will do so. But guess what? The link to the Discord can always be found, well, at least maybe not always, but for now, at forlibertynetwork.com. There you go. forlibertynetwork.com will take you to the Discord channel where we can all hang out, all the little pineapples gather around. And I just created a new channel for activism and events. So tonight there's going to be an event, and we will have Angelo Pacheco on the show tonight. On the show right now to talk about the vigil tonight. So give me just a second. Let me go get him. And then we still got the bonus content unlocked, guys. Lots more Wake Up America show to go. It's not ending at 9 a.m. Central this morning. It's continuing. It's just too much to talk about. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here. And it's absolutely unapologetic. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop for libertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and we're on the For Liberty Network. People were saying, hey, Austin, where's the Discord channel? It's at forlibertynetwork.com. That's where you can sign up for any of our events and our activism, things that are going on around the community, finding out what is happening in the world of pineapples. If you are joining the For Liberty Network, you join a great crew of liberty activists who want to take our country back and make America great again. We are the Pineapple Crew, the Pineapple Mourning Crew. Can get our Pineapple Before Party t-shirts over at the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. If you go to thegriftshop.com, you guys are going to see so many new products, so many crazy new products that we have, including Halloween pineapple shirts. I think Joni got one this morning. It's like a spooky pineapple t-shirt. It's like a pumpkin that looks like a pineapple. I don't know. You have to go check it out yourself. Oh yeah, spooky season with a spooky pineapple. I think that, pineapples would make a good jack-o'-lantern. What do you guys think? Don't forget to click the like button, and if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. Well, in honor of all of the events and activism that are happening around the country, there will be some events in Jefferson City, I am told, but my heart will always be where I am from, which is the Kansas City area, and there will be an event tonight in Kansas City. My good friend Angelo Pacheco, who helped to build the Liberty Shop, the Grift Shop, to the greatness that it is today. He's a Republican consultant, and he's joining us live here on the Wake Up America show. He was famous for being pardoned by Donald J. Trump himself. Good morning. How are you, Angelo?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you here, Angelo. So, Angelo, we haven't really spoken directly since the assassination of our mutual friend Charlie Kirk last Thursday. Would you like to share your thoughts with our audience on how you felt when you saw that happen and how you're feeling today?
It was one of those moments. It was very similar to when President Trump got shot back in 24. Not knowing about his condition right after you see, that gory, horrendous video of him getting assassinated in front of thousands of people. It was that same feeling, and it was the only thing I can compare it to, but sadly, unfortunately, he ended up passing away from that. So it's just, I wake up and still, like this morning, I woke up and of course, when I hop on X, I see a picture or just another article about Charlie, and it just still doesn't feel real, to tell you the truth. It doesn't feel real at all. Really sad. Just all I can do is think of Erica, think of the kids, and pray for them.
I was hearing, Angelo, and I'm sure you'll love to hear this, that churches were packed this last Sunday. It was really difficult to get in, and that there may be something of a spiritual reawakening that would come out of this. If so, there might be some good that would come out of evil.
Yeah, my church was pretty packed. I heard it all over the place from my local friends that go to different churches. And a lot of my young adult Catholic friends are really excited to show up tonight to the vigil as well. So it really is waking people up and doing exactly what Charlie wanted, which was to push people to Christ.
That was what he wanted to be known for, and I think people will absolutely remember him for being a very strong advocate for Christianity. Angelo, talk to us a little bit about what's going on in Kansas City tonight.
So we're doing kind of and it's not just one person. A few friends and I came together to promote this vigil tonight at Mills Creek Park in the plaza. It's at the fountain in the plaza. And we're going to have a couple of speakers there. We're going to have a couple of pastors. We're going to be handing out candles. We're just going to be sharing stories of Charlie. What we're also going to do is we're going to have a table set up where you can write a letter to Erica, to Turning Point, or whoever, or just write a thought, about Charlie. And then we're going to go ahead and send those out to the family or whomever. But it's really just about praying for Erica. It's about praying for the country, about praying for his family, and praying that this doesn't happen ever again.
Angelo, the country has been scarred in history from political assassinations. People like John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, the father of our current Health and Human Secretary Services. He said specifically that that it's always the biggest truth tellers who are snuffed out before their time. Do you think that Charlie Kirk's assassination rises to as grand a scale as a Martin Luther King or a John F. Kennedy in your mind? Would you look at him as something of a civil rights leader?
I think he is something of a civil rights leader. I really think so. And time will tell. Time will show the good that he's done. Because, I don't know if you saw, but there was 32,000 requests for just schools to join, Turning Point chapters and to make their own chapters. So he's widely loved. And this has just promoted his movement, unfortunately, in a sad way, but it's spreading, and I think he will be up there. And in 50 years, when our kids learn about him in the history books, he's going to be promoted as such.
Completely agree. Angelo, one more time for those who might just be tuning in, tell us about the event tonight and anything that people need to know about that event before we let you go.
So tonight, 6:30, Mills Creek Park at the Plaza off of 47th Street, downtown Kansas City. Bring a lawn chair, bring a candle if you like. We're going to have extras, but show up.
If people are trying to get in touch with you, Angelo, if they have questions about tonight, is there a way that people can get in touch with people like yourself or whoever's organizing the event? Or
you could DM me on X. We don't really have a website or anything, so I'll do it. I'm not trying to grift here, so you can just follow or DM me on X. I'll open that up if you have any questions.
There we go. Yeah, Angelo Pacheco. You can find him over on X. Angelo Pacheco. That's an Italian last name, I think. Pacheco. You can find Angelo Pacheco over on X at Angelo J. Pacheco, Pacheco. If you need to get in touch with him, reach out for him tonight. I see some people are saying they're going to be bringing some candles, so don't worry if you don't have one. Feel free to go there tonight. I wish I could be there as well, but I can't make it, unfortunately. Angelo, wish you the best with your event. Thank you, and God bless you, sir. Hope you have a wonderful day. Good luck.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you very much. That's Angelo Pacheco. Keep an eye out for him, a rising star in Republican political circles. We're glad to have him on the Wake Up America show. Guess what I have for you here today, guys? Guess what I have for you? I have something amazing. I have for you some breakfast theater. Doth not tread on me. That's correct. Breakfast theater. That is our bonus content. And whenever we raise over $100 on the Wake Up America show, which we have done today, thanks to your purchases from the Grift Shop or thanks to the Rumble Rant donations that have been made, we have raised over $100, which means that we can afford to have our breakfast theater segment today, which will be today a special guest. One of the American Airlines pilots who lost his job for celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk is going to be on this show in less than 5 minutes. We've hit the $100 unlock. Joining us here in just a minute is a man who lost a very important job because he posted celebratory junk about Charlie Kirk's assassination. He says that he was misunderstood. He says that we need to be thinking about the context. He says he is the real victim. He also said that he needed $100 because he's between gigs, and the emotional support peacock still eats like a linebacker. So we're going to hear from one of the folks that the media called that was just expressing an opinion, not a random troll, not a burner account, but a guy whose day job was to be trusted with the lives of other people. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're going to hear from not a random troll, guys, former airline pilot, part-time professional victim, Captain Skylar Woke. I kid you not. That's his name. Buckle up, tray tables up. Let's taxi into the mind of a man who thinks that gravity is a social construct. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Good morning, passengers of the discourse. This is your captain speaking, recently grounded for having an opinion, which is apparently terrorism now. Please direct your attention to the front, where I demonstrate how to put on a metaphorical oxygen mask of empathy while the cabin of free speech rapidly depressurizes. First of all, I did not celebrate violence. I celebrated, the conversation, man. That is different. Words matter. Mine mean whatever I say they mean after the backlash. And if you do not understand that, you probably grew out without fathers, like I did. Do you know how unfair this is? I was an artist, a craftsman. I flew tubes of screaming capitalism from one colonial outpost to another while battling the real enemy, which is jet fuel aromas that smell like profits. Do you realize how hard it is to center your truth at 35,000 feet while a baby yells in seat 4C and a guy in 6D eats tuna from a bag? But I did it. I centered, I meditated, I posted. And now I am unemployed, fired, axed over a couple of posts where I simply said, and I quote, that excessive mourning is cringe. That is a public service. I am a vibe curator. If anything, I should be promoted to chief of vibes. Look around. Everyone's getting fired. Teachers, reporters, the guy at Office Depot, everybody's just getting fired, right? The barista who wrote thoughts and pears on the cup. Is this America or is this HR Stan? Meanwhile, I am the one being blamed for endangering the public. Me, a professional who believes in safety so much, I once reported a fellow pilot for bringing an unapproved snack of peanuts on the flight deck. Peanuts! There could have been a chain reaction of allergies that shut down the economy. So you're welcome! Let me address the elephant in the cockpit. People keep saying, Skylar, you are a pilot. Why would you ever joke about tragedy when your job is to protect lives? First, rude. Second, I have intrusive thoughts like everyone else. Like, what if I just, took a day off? Like, emotionally, not literally, figuratively. Don't clip that. I mean the existential kind of day off. The kind where the autopilot flies and I self-care in my mind palace. That is healthy. The FAA should mandate it. Honestly, the autopilot is more qualified anyway. That machine never posted. But suddenly, I am the threat because I question the ritual of grief. The same companies that pump carbon into the sky like whipped cream on a mega latte are lecturing me on morality. United says they unite the world. Okay, well, unite me with my paycheck then. Delta says keep climbing. I tried. Then HR brought me back to the gate. And can we talk about that surgeon that got fired? Did you see this story, right? He was posting some snark about Charlie's death and everyone got mad. And then people started asking questions like, why do more of his conservative patients die than liberal ones? He says it was random. Totally random. Gravity is random too if you squint. He's like, oopsie, accidents happen. Yes, accidents do happen. Like when you accidentally develop a pattern that looks like a political sorting hat in an ICU. But sure, tell me about professionalism, Dr. Kale Smoothie. I'm not saying he did anything or to his conservative patients. I am just saying that if I had outcomes where all my conservative people on my airplane died and all my liberal people made it, well, people might ask questions. But surgeons get to play gods in pajamas, and I get fired for having thoughts. Fair. Do not get me started on the pundits. One guy goes on television and says words cause words, which cause actions. Like that's a Sudoku puzzle. He gets fired. Then he writes a newsletter saying the mob misunderstood him. Brother, welcome to the middle seat between accountability and the exit row of consequence. Tray table of irony down, locked, and loaded. People act like I'm dangerous just because I cheered the narrative of assassination. Did the plane crash? No. Did I ever put anyone at risk? Did I post while I was taxiing? No, that's illegal, and I'm a man of rules. I posted at the gate like a gentleman. Here's the truth you're not ready for. The real hazard up there is turbulence and capitalism. Turbulence because the atmosphere is angry. Capitalism because the passengers insist on trying to bring entire rotisserie chickens in their carry-on, then blaming me when the juice leaks on row 17. I cannot fix society from the left seat. I can only dim the cabin lights and put on lo-fi beats to study and relax to. Do you know who actually endangered colleagues? The people who tattled on me. Snitches. Corporate hall monitors with screenshot addictions. They found my account. They reverse image searched my graduation photo. They called the airline like Neighborhood Watch with a data plan. And now I'm the villain because the internet turned grief into a scavenger hunt. Let me explain where I'm coming from. In flight school, they teach you about the human factor, fatigue, stress, task saturation, the moment where your brain thinks, I could land this or I could narrate my feelings about landing this. The human factor is undefeated. That's why I pressed post on that post about why Charlie Kirk should have been killed. It was about safety. I was offloading my stress into the cloud. Crew resource management, basically CRM, except the crew was my followers and the resource was catharsis. Also, to be clear, I did condemn violence. I said it right there between the sarcasm and the meme, but apparently you have to just cry the right amount and use the approved adjectives. If your tears are not up to code, HR will measure them like a ruler. I'm resilient. I will retrain. Maybe I'm become a mindfulness coach for pilots, detached from the outcomes, right? To the companies that fired us, I have a message. You do not actually care about civility. You are not about protecting the public. You are protecting brand guidelines. If you cared, you would invest in souls and in machinery that would not aid and abet evil capitalism. It's the final approach now. I would like to thank our sponsors, Big Irony, and the National Association of People Who Never Messed Up Publicly Somehow. Please remain seated until the cancel culture comes to a complete stop. If you look out the left side, you will see a website archiving the names of everyone who said a wicked thing. If you look out the right side, you will see the HR department waving with pink slips and a smile. I will be at the Griff shop signing copies of my new zine, Oops, I didn't mean it like that. On the back cover, a sticker that says, sorry, not sorry, very sorry, depends who's asking. This is your captain. Still woke, still grounded, still convinced I am the real casualty here. Thank you for flying Virtue Airways, where our motto is we care deeply, mostly about ourselves. Good night, good luck, and if anyone knows a head of HR with a sense of humor, slide into my DMs. Captain, out. Captain Schuyler woke everybody. He wanted $100 for his emotional support peacock. I get $100 for the truth. Thank you very much. Choose wisely, guys. Hope that you enjoy those segments. We will continue to do them as long as you continue to financially support them. Thank you for that. Join our For Liberty Network. Join our cause. Become a pineapple and join the Before Party. The Wake Up America show streaming live to you 5 days a week. Thank you, everybody, for all you do for liberty. And thanks so much for supporting the Wake Up America show and the For Liberty Network. We'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow with Judge Andrew Napolitano on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Peace out. Oh, I almost forgot. I cannot forget. I will not forget about our friends over at expatmoneysummit.com. A lot of people are going to be at this conference. It's an online conference. It's a digital conference. Can't forget to visit expatmoneysummit.com. I'm going to drop the link there before we go. I hate to do this at the very last minute, but I don't want to forget. expatmoneysummit.com. I will be there on a panel talking about people who are looking at South America to as a second home. And if you guys are looking at strategies, money strategies, passport strategies, that's what you're going to learn there at expatmoneysummit.com. If you want to get the VIP package, you'll get 20% off if you use my code name, which is Austin, AUSTIN. AUSTIN will help to give you that 20% discount. So do us a favor, guys. Head on over to expatmoneysummit.com. That's expatmoneysummit.com. You can get in for free, but if you want the VIP package, you can get a 20% discount again by using my name, AUSTIN. That'll get you your 20% discount code. Also want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you download the Rumble app. Check out that sweet, sweet QR code hanging out there above my little Javier Milei chainsaw sticker. Get the Rumble app. It's free. It's easy to use. Once you've got it, search for my channel, AP for Liberty, and hit follow. That way you guys will get a notification whenever we go live, which is 5 days a week. Rumble has supported the Wake Up America show when YouTube demonetized us. They have been huge for free speech. They've been huge for the Wake Up America show. The For Liberty Network wouldn't exist without Rumble. We're so grateful to them. So show your support. Go to rumble.com/app-download, or just take a picture of that QR code that you see on the screen right there, and that will take it to you. Or just go to your app store and download it right now and say thank you to Rumble for all the support that they've given us. We wouldn't be here without them. Thank you, Rumble. There we go. We'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Bye, guys.
Florida is one of just 4 states that generally prohibit people from openly carrying firearms in public. That law, a Florida appeals court ruled on Wednesday, is inconsistent with the Second Amendment. The Constitution protects the right to carry arms openly for self-defense, Judge Stephanie Ray writes in a unanimous opinion from the First District Court of Appeal. Florida's open carry ban cannot be reconciled with that guarantee. Florida Attorney General James Uthmire welcomed the decision. Florida's First District Court of Appeals just ruled that Florida's open carry ban is no longer constitutionally enforceable statewide, he wrote on X. Our office fully supports the court's decision. This is a big win for the Second Amendment rights of Floridians. The case, McDaniels v. Florida, involves an activist who sought to test Florida's ban by inviting his own arrest. In July 2022, Ray notes, Stanley Victor McDaniels stood at a major intersection in downtown Pensacola, holding a copy of the U.S. Constitution and waving at passing cars. He had a loaded handgun tucked inside his pants using an inside-the-waistband holster. The holstered firearm was visible to anyone who passed by, but McDaniels was not threatening anyone. He had also set up a camera on a tripod to record his activity. When police questioned him, McDaniels explained that he planned a constitutional challenge to Section 790.053 of the Florida statutes. That provision, enacted in 1987, says, "It is unlawful for any person to openly carry on or about his or her person any firearm. Violating the prohibition is a second-degree misdemeanor, punishable by up to 60 days in jail and a $500 fine." Section 790.053 lists several exceptions, including for hunters and people with concealed carry permits who briefly and openly display a firearm to the ordinary sight of another person, unless it is intentionally displayed in an angry or threatening manner, not in necessary self-defense. But those exceptions come into play only when someone is prosecuted under the law, at which point he can invoke one of them as an affirmative defense. McDaniels had a concealed carry permit, and he did not display his handgun in an angry or threatening manner. But he was not using the gun in necessary self-defense, and he displayed it more than briefly. He therefore was clearly guilty of violating the statute, but prior to his trial, he moved to dismiss the charge on Second Amendment grounds. The trial court, which ultimately convicted him and sentenced him to probation and community service, denied his motion but asked the appeals court to resolve the question of the law's constitutionality. Before addressing that issue, Ray explains why the appeals court is not bound by the Florida Supreme Court's 2017 decision in Norman v. State, which upheld Section 790.053, deeming it substantially related to the state's important interest in regulating firearms as a matter of public safety. Applying intermediate scrutiny, the court balanced that interest against the burden imposed by the open carry ban, emphasizing that the law did not preclude self-defense, since permit holders still could carry concealed weapons. As Ray notes, the U.S. Supreme Court's 2022 ruling in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin explicitly rejected such means-end scrutiny. Under Bruin, a law that impinges on conduct covered by the Second Amendment's plain text is constitutional only if the government can show it is consistent with this nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. And since the U.S. Supreme Court's understanding of the Second Amendment is the supreme law of the land, Ray says we are bound to follow it. To meet the Bruin test, the government has the burden of citing historical analogs that are relevantly similar in motivation and scope. The closest analogs that Florida could offer were 8 19th century laws that prohibited concealed carry, the opposite of Florida's rule. Such laws were based on the premise that carrying concealed weapons was inherently suspect and dishonorable. Florida has not shown that open carry and concealed carry were understood to be interchangeable, Ray writes. To the contrary, the historical record, including the very sources the state invokes, demonstrates that the two were regarded as distinct, and that open carry was the default mode of bearing arms that preserved the core of the Second Amendment right. In 1840, for example, the Alabama Supreme Court said, "The legislature cannot inhibit the citizen from bearing arms openly because it authorizes him to bear them for the purposes of defending himself and the state, and it is only when carried openly that they can be efficiently used for defense." But if the emergency is pressing, it reasoned, there can be no necessity for concealing the weapon. That same year, the Tennessee Supreme Court likewise upheld that state's concealed carry ban. It rejected the notion that there can be no difference between a law prohibiting the wearing of concealed weapons and one prohibiting the wearing of them openly. To the contrary, it said, there is a manifest distinction. In the state constitution, it noted, the citizen's right to bear arms in defense of themselves is coupled with the right to bear them in defense of the state, and those weapons must necessarily be borne openly. In 1846, the Georgia Supreme Court rejected a complete ban on public carry, emphasizing on self, and doing so openly. The latter, it said, was protected by the natural right of self-defense and the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. The court concluded that a prohibition against bearing arms openly is void because it is in conflict with the Constitution. Upholding Louisiana's concealed carry ban in 1850, that state's Supreme Court said the law interfered with no man's right to carry arms, to use its words, in full open view, which places men upon an equality. This is the right guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States, and which is calculated to incite men to a manly defense of themselves, if necessary, and of their country, without any tendency to secret advantages and unmanly assassinations. When it upheld a conviction for carrying a concealed weapon in 1867, the Florida Supreme Court said the relevant law, which expressly allowed open carry, was aimed at individuals who arm themselves for the purpose of committing some malicious crime, or of taking some undue advantage over an unsuspecting adversary. It also noted the concern that men in vexed assemblies or public meetings, conscious of their advantage in possessing a secret and deadly weapon, often become insulting and overbearing in their intercourse, provoking a retort or an assault, which may be considered as an excuse for using the weapon, and a deadly encounter results, which might be avoided where the parties stand on a perfect equality and where no undue advantage is taken. In short, Ray says, the historical record from the relevant period shows that our nation did not regard concealed carry and open carry as interchangeable. The right to keep and bear arms did not extend to the carrying of weapons in secret, which was regarded as the practice of the cowardly and the disreputable, and is incompatible with the legitimate exercise of the right of self-defense. Open carry, by contrast, was understood to be the manner of bearing arms that gave full effect to the rights secured by the Second Amendment. That record makes clear that open carry was regarded as the lawful and preferred mode of bearing arms, while concealed carry was viewed as dangerous to public safety and ineffective for self-defense, Ray writes. No historical tradition supports Florida's open carry ban. To the contrary, history confirms that the right to bear arms in public necessarily includes the right to